What is your prediction for the 2020 election?
Every day I wake up and I change my mind.
What's today then? Today is Friday the 16th of October 2020. What's your prediction?
Yes. So yesterday I thought Biden was probably going to win. Today I think Trump is going to win. But it's going to be close and it's going to get very messy. Very messy.
Take me through the thinking.
Okay. So national polling, and I invite people. How soon after we record this is this going out?
Less than a week, so pretty quick.
Okay. So I interviewed with a guy called Jim Rickards, who was one of the analysts who predicted Trump's first election very early on. Will be going out at some point in the next week or two after this goes out. And we've had him on the show a number of times. And what he was saying was, yes, Biden is up in the national polls by 10 to 12 points. He is. But national polls don't matter because in America, they don't have national elections, right? It's all done state by state. So you have to win the battleground states. The fact that Biden and Harris are going to get, let's say, 4 million more votes in California than Trump doesn't really matter because you can only win California once. So the national polling isn't necessarily indicative of the result. If you remember in 2016, Hillary won the popular vote by quite some margin. Didn't really help her because of the electoral college. So that's one part of it. Obviously, the shy Trump voter is a huge phenomenon, right? And also, I think it's not been much covered in the mainstream media in this country or much of the mainstream media in America. But what is happening in many cities or several cities in America now is full-blown riots, burning down of property, shops. People are being killed in the streets for, turning up to some protests and being pro-Trump, literally being shot in the head, et cetera, et cetera. And the Antifa people who are doing this are now taking that fight to the suburbs. They're taking it into where the middle class, quote unquote, people live. And I can tell you one thing that I know from experience. The moment you start messing with people's sense of safety, the moment a middle class couple with 2 children and a nice car in a garage or whatever suddenly feel like there's armed people outside who may well burn their house down, that is the moment when people will vote for anyone, as long as they promise to prevent that, which is my greatest fear with all of this, right? And I don't know if you remember, when we had the BLM riots in London, I had a massive super viral thread on Twitter talking about this very thing, that the greatest danger of allowing these riots to happen and then being biased in terms of saying they're largely peaceful when police officers are being attacked, etc., is that if you show people these scenes of disorder long enough, and you show the police backing down and not tackling and not addressing the sort of disorder, then what they will eventually go is, look, I don't care what I don't care if he's racist. I don't care if he wants to deport immigrants. I just care that he or she is going to deliver stability and order. And my sense is that there will be many people in America who don't want to see their cities burned down, who are going to look at what's happening and go, look, I don't like Donald Trump. I think he may be a bit racist. I think he shouldn't talk about women the way he talks. I think he's obnoxious. I think he's brash. But they're going to look at that and go, what's the choice here? I can either have a racist, sexist president, if that's how they see it, or I can have my house burned down. Now, you put that in front of any certain person. I mean, right? That's what I see. So I've sort of been disenthralled of this idea that the national polls are necessarily a strong predictor. It's going to be close, and it's probably going to end up not being a result on election night. We may not see a result for 2, during which time Donald Trump is almost certainly going to be the leader, because Republicans tend to vote in person, Democrats much more with the voting, do the voting via post. So what you're going to have is a week or two when Donald Trump, quote unquote, won, but the election result isn't unconfirmed. And then those ballots may come in and he may then lose.
Man,
that's not a healthy situation, my friend. I'm glad, one of my biggest criticisms of Trump is that he refused to say that he would hand over power peacefully until yesterday, which is when he finally did, which I'm glad, because I think that's completely unacceptable in a democracy for one party to say they wouldn't accept the result of an election. On the other hand, it's equally deeply unacceptable for Biden to refuse to talk about whether he's going to pack the court or not. Because if you start messing with the Supreme Court and the number of justices on that to suit your political agenda, well, that's the end of the American project as well. So both of those things are completely unacceptable. I'm glad Trump has rode back on that. I hope Biden and Kamala Harris now say they're not going to do that as well, because that is very, very important. But it's going to get messy.
It is. Douglas, I asked Douglas the same question. This has been a theme. I asked Gad Saad, I asked Andrew Doyle, I've asked Douglas, I've asked yourself. And Douglas gave the most. He had to pull the fence out of his arse in order to be able to actually speak. But he said, whatever happens, it's not going to be very well accepted. And he's got some quite big fears, which is interesting because he's now in America. Like, he's now over there. So, like, fair play, mate. Like, if stuff gets set on fire, you've decided to pop yourself in amongst it. Yeah, I agree. I think that no matter your political leaning, trying to undermine the democratic process at large really has to be one of those things that's unacceptable. It's like, look, you can 2-foot slide tackle me, I can push you while you're off the ball, but no one can come in and pick it up and run away or shoot the referee. Like, these things are outside the rules of the game. In fact, they change the rules of the game. If we're supposed to be playing chess and you rugby tackle me to the floor, like, that kind of just what are we doing here? There has to be some upper bound. But again, like, what have we been, this disintegrationist left, as Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin refer to it, like, that game of one-upsmanship. We'll do something, we'll break some rules, so we'll break some rules, so we'll break some rules. And think as well, everybody's self-branding, everyone looks in some form or another, for some reason, there is a particular minority who look to political leaders as examples, as role models of how they should like spend their lives morally, or just, Trump says something, then you get it regurgitated, or Biden says something, then Kamala Harris says something, then you get it regurgitated. Like, if they are saying, well, we can break all of the rules, and they're supposed to be these paragons of diplomatic virtue, right? They're supposed to be the ones who are the least at the mercy of trends. There's, the fucking lighthouse in the storm type bullshit. That's what your politicians are supposed to be. If they're prepared to keep on changing all of the rules, what precedent does that set for everybody else? And it really can quite quickly become a vicious cycle. So yeah, I think the next, when is is it the 22nd of November? When is it?
The 3rd of November.
Oh shit. It's
very soon.
It's soon, man. Wow. So I mean, the next 3 weeks they're going to be compelling.
Well, compelling, if you like horror movies. There is another aspect to this, and I think you speak to that very well, which is that if you allow politicians to conduct themselves in this way and to delegitimize the democratic process, which both sides have done, but particularly, in my opinion, the Democrats in America and the left in this country as well, then what you end up with is a situation where we are now, where 36% of both Democrats and Republicans feel that violence is justified to achieve your political ends. So a third of both supporter groups are quite happy to use violence, right? Which has gone up from 8% about 2 years ago. So if you've got that situation, the election is in dispute, both parties are undermining the democratic process and encouraging their followers essentially to feel like violence is a way of resolving this issue. Not a good recipe. Not a good recipe.